Hello, everyone. Greetings from South Africa. Welcome to this presentation. The topic is a critical meta-discursive analysis of English language textbooks for grade 8 for the purpose of character education, a systemic functional grammatical approach. An introduction to this presentation is that this particular presentation is based on a paper which posits that even if the English language textbook is a vehicle of linguistic and general knowledge, its content may not always be appropriate for the diverse learners in the South African classroom, where learners come from various habitus. Just a little bit on the mixed habitus. It's multicultural and multi-religious. So the students have mixed backgrounds. They are from Christianity, Judaism, Islam, African traditional religions, and Hinduism, among others. So the aims of this particular study is to uncover hidden ideologies as well as power relations and naturalized subject constructions, which could impact on these learners or readers and hence exclude them. Thereafter, to suggest teaching learners universal values instead of topics that some may find sensitive. The methodology is deconstruction of texts from English language textbooks for grade 8, where learners are only between age of 11 and 12. They are 11, 12 years old kids. And the reconstruction in terms of choice of topics and text in light of character education. So it will be demonstrated how the book, author or authors, either consciously or unconsciously through their meta-discourse, assume that all grade 8 learners are the same, not considering that some learners might come from a more conservative background where teenage romance is not encouraged. So textbook authors assume that all grade 8 learners have problems, that they are interested in the topic of romantic love, that they need a forum to discuss such topics and are ready for romantic relationships. So the habitus of the learners, multi-religious, multicultural identities have not been taken into account by the authors, which could be construed as a form of exclusion. So my interpretation of this concept is that the text producers herein referred to as authors take up a position of expert vis-a-vis the learners in an attempt to suggest to them how to address the topics to which they are introduced. This will be the meta-discourse. The rationale in each of the chosen textbooks which are available on the market. There is one chapter which is specifically devoted to the topic of romantic love, one friendship changing to romance. It is the habitus of the learners that determines how they welcome, perceive, and interpret these texts. These texts present learners as agents. They are passive agents. They are told what to do by the texts provided by the authors. The main concern is that the learners have agency, but of topics for which they may not be ready. So I analyze texts and draw conclusions inductively. Purposive sampling is a method of sampling which entails as an aspect of qualitative research. The handpicking of the data was used. So I chose from the limited textbooks on the South African market. This process was based on the condition that these textbooks all contain a chapter on the topic of teenage love and relationship, which confirms that the choice is based on me, the researcher's judgment, on my judgment of the typicality of the data and possession of a particular characteristic. So the main aim of these analyses is to show how the language presented in the texts position the grade 8 learner as mature, ready for romance and for all that romance entails, including sensuality. The focus is on the visual semiotic choice, which are choices made by the authors and by the participants or characters in the extract to create meaning. Only one example in each textbook is presented due to the limited scope of this presentation. So one example for the deconstruction from each textbook and just one sample for the reconstruction. The analytical framework comprises Halliday's systemic functional grammar, SFG, and appraisal theory, which is part of the interpersonal metafunction of SFG. Just a figure here to explain systemic functional grammar, which all of us should be familiar with, and the appraisal system with attitude, graduation, engagement. So the appraisal system was developed by Martin and White and other linguists in the 90s and 2000s. So this theory stipulates that writers or speakers convey different attitudes and meanings through intensity or directness of texts or utterances. The meaning is strengthened or weakened depending on how the writer or speaker, who is the sender of messages, engages with the recipient of these messages while conveying attitude, graduation, and engagement. More specifically, meta-discourse can be defined as the range of devices writers use to explicitly organize their texts, engage readers, and signal their attitudes to both their material and their audience. So this is appraisal system and meta-discourse. So the appraisal model operates within the interpersonal meta-function of SFG as it explores the relationship between the speaker and the writer and the listener and reader, as explained above. So the theory of appraisal claims that speakers, writers, senders of messages enact speech in terms of asserting, questioning, responding, commanding, advising, and offering. And these functions create meanings in various contexts. Now to the data presentation and analysis. This is an extract from English for Success. So topic love or like. Perhaps I'm just going to read a little bit of it before I proceed to the analysis. So perhaps you think that you're in love with a new boy or girl in your life, or do you think that it is impossible to trust someone like your younger brother? Here's a quiz to help you find out. So you have to read and respond. So work on your own, choose the answer that best describes you. And it's hot chili or cool cucumber, boiling kettle or ice cube. These are the metaphors used as titles here. And there are three, this is just an extract. There are more questions, obviously, which are not presented today here due to the scope of the presentation. So say the first question is, you've just been out on a first date with someone you really like. How soon after the date do you phone your new flame? And there are questions, it's multiple choice. Second question, you arrange to meet your boyfriend or girlfriend in town on Saturday afternoon. You wait for an hour, but they still don't come. On Monday morning, do you? A, B, C, D. And third one, you've been going out with someone for a while and you're totally in love with each other. Your birthday is in a week's time. Do you expect your boyfriend or girlfriend to, again, multiple choice. So the mental process in perhaps you think you're in love, the cognitive mental process, think, invites the learner to take a psychological journey with the author. The statement, you are in love, which is a relational attributive clause, indicates you, the learner, as the carrier of the clause and in love as the attribute. Also a declarative statement in terms of the interpersonal function, almost a statement of fact. The learner is thus perceived by the author as being in love. The author decides how the learner should feel. And in the appraisal system, the intensifying element of graduation you are totally in love with each other, emphasizes the degree of love between the participants who are the learner and the object of his or her love. And the above sample as presented has as heading love or like. So another heading for this chapter, and specifically for this extract, may as well be love or lust. The nature of the questions in the quiz suggests dating is a common activity for subjects in the text here. The researcher, it's me, queries why other types of love with other meanings are excluded. It seems that only one type of love is focused on here, the romantic type. So in light of character education, love for parents, love for fellow human beings, love for the environment, etc., would be more useful. So values would be more useful than the topic of romance for 11, 12 years old. By thematizing the you as per each question here, within the textual metafunctions, the author of the text, of the textbook, has a grip on the learner, and each ream that follows is a direct form of influence on the reader, despite himself or herself. The authorial voice invites the learner to engage more deeply with the topic of dating. Further on, we have the reader as agent or actor in the material processes of arranging, meeting the girlfriend or boyfriend. This again is presented as normal behavior. It is further stated that the reader has been going out with someone for a while and totally in love with each other. Again, such behavior for a teenager is naturalized and strengthened by the authorial voice coming across through the interpersonal metafunction in the form of a declarative clause. So this quiz from an American magazine, as per acknowledgement in the textbook, is then presented. There are more questions and it becomes more and more graphic. So it's multimodal actually, with pictures, images of cucumbers and ice cubes as well, which I'm not presenting here today. So the activity simulates a personality test, which hardly focuses on the linguistic aspect of English teaching. It is a quiz which sets out questions for the reader to reflect on. The scene is set with the use of the declarative mood, followed by an interrogative one. And the author establishes the context and positions the reader at the outset. So you've been out, how soon? As the theme of the next clause is marked as it focuses on the urgency of the reconnection with the date. It also assumes that this is a natural and normal thing to do. This is extract 2 from English Today, the second textbooks. So these are rules about dating. So many families and communities have rules about when teenagers can go out, and especially about when they can start dating. So does your community have rules about dating that you're expected to follow, and so on. So this particular extract deals with a topic, rules about dating, which is self-explanatory, where the graded reader is invited to read and engage with the rules of dating. The principles promoted in this extract about dating might conflict with the values of some of the learners in the class, thereby excluding them. A little bit of analysis. So the clause, many families and communities have rules about when teenagers can go out, and especially about when they can start dating, is a relational attributive one, with the carrier being many families and communities, and the attribute rules in terms of SFG. Indeed, many families or communities have rules about dating, and sometimes this particular topic would be taboo in some families and communities of conservative habitus. Many in the appraisal system is a measure, an adjectival element indicating graduation. It is an explicit grader indicating quantity, which in this case indicates the number of families and communities engaging in entertaining these rules of dating. Now, character educations, according to the Hizmet humanistic philosophy, informed by Fethullah Gülen's philosophy. So the concept of character education is often conflated with values education, moral education. And the paper suggests, the study suggests that instead of choosing the topic of teenage love, the textbook authors should choose more useful topics for vulnerable children. They should see the textbook as an opportunity to share common universal values with the learners. This is more likely create an awareness in learners of essential basic values and promote good actions. So here is suggested reconstruction. So this is for the reconstruction purpose, one sample. So from English for Success, this particular word power octopus with, I've just blown it a little bit, zoomed here for, so it's words for love, desire, passion, romance, hunger, and trust. So the reconstructed version, in light of character education, love is still words for love, but it's an invitation to engage with different forms of love, as suggested before: parental love, environmental love, and so on. Love for animals, for fellow human beings. So values like tolerance, honesty, trustworthiness, altruism, divine, spiritual, helpfulness, care, peace, all of these could be presented and discussed instead of topics on themes based on romantic love. So in conclusion, meta discourse would still remain the same with regard to the instructions of the textbook authors, but the topic at hand would be aligned with character education. Authors would still invite learners to engage with topics. This time, the topics would be topics on universal values as suggested in the reconstructed image of the octopus. With this effort at character education, there's hope for a better society of ethical human beings who will serve society altruistically. With this, thank you for listening to my presentation and for engaging with it. I look forward to further discussion on this presentation. Thank you very much for being here. Have a good one.